So again, we welcome everybody and thank you for joining us in our webinar here. Now taking on a little bit more of an international flow of the first week. These people that bring a little bit of a perspective from abroad. We're here to take Hare, who's the international manager at Fleetwood Town FC, a now worldwide respected program in their approach.
Amrik, I think Manny's gone on
I
mute.
think Manny's gone on mute, yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear anybody.
Did we maybe having some technical difficulties with him there?
No problem. Just a little message.
Yeah, I just did.
Yeah, cool.
Sorry guys, I got muted out.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry about that, guys. So from that standpoint, I don't know where I necessarily got cut off from, but as I was saying, it's an honor to have James Ward here from Fleetwood Town Football Club, an international partnership manager, who's a unique approach and a fresh perspective into youth development and players making that jump into that next level. As I was saying, we were Coach Julien, Coach Amrik. I know you've developed a good relationship with James and Fleetwood over the past couple of years. I had the opportunity to pop by into the camp last year, hosted by Skills and Drills, and it was definitely highly engaging and a good approach, and just having some of the insight and having the opportunity to get filled in on it, it was definitely a good concept. So if you can just introduce a little bit of that background with Fleetwood and just.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Manny. As you said, I've got a bit of a personal relationship here with James that we crossed paths about 2 years ago now, James, I think.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And yeah, just in our dealings, we had a dinner while I was over there and kind of got the ball rolling and connected on a partnership because he was kind of explaining how the global game and the reach for especially clubs at like the first division, second division has become just as apparent as it has at the Premiership level, the Championship level, as it is in Spain and La Liga and Germany, in the Bundesliga 1, 2, all the way down, right? You can't kind of just hone in on talent within a certain radius of your home base. So I brought a group over from Canada, and James had run a training session with him, great training session. We the synergy between the two of us kind of clicked right off the bat, and again, it just got the ball rolling for this relationship and partnership that we have. We did a camp, like you said, Manny, an ID camp for Fleetwood Town last year in the summer. Knock on wood, hoping everything works out again. We plan to do it again this summer as well, but obviously everybody knows with the current COVID situation, we're monitoring it closely, but hopes to get another one going again in the near future, this summer to fall, and continue this relationship. James, it's been great, and you've already had a player I personally sent over earlier in the year, and a couple that were supposed to come again, and they will. They just delayed their trip, and you've also had dabs in the Canadian market. So if you can even just touch base on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, I've been doing my sort of role for 10 years now at various football clubs, so I'm very familiar with the Canadian football market, football itself over there, in the Toronto area especially. However, I've ventured further afield than Toronto, done lots of work in BC and then over in New Brunswick, them sorts of ways. But it's the most participated grassroots sport in the north of America, So there's a huge pool of hungry, thirsty athletes who are wanting more than what they're getting, and an experience and an exposure to a different style of play and a different culture and an experience of what it's like overseas, especially on the European continent. So over the 10 years, I've seen a huge sort of upward curve in ability, really. And I think one of the questions later on is about that, and I certainly put that down to the hunger and thirst of the players. But the coaching in Canada's got an awful lot better. An awful lot more structured over the last 10 years, which is evident to see in the sort of type of the players that are being developed and coming out of the region. So it's a real target area for ourselves as a football club. There's lots of hidden gems who are yet to be untapped in the area. So we want to make our presence felt in that area, along with the whole of Canada, but obviously Toronto being the hotbed.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. Yeah, kind of, you can help. I know one of our players actually from our academy. He goes by Nye, Andrew Nye, Nyron from our AIFC team. He can kind of explain how that, and maybe even like how the international academy at Fleetwood kind of operates.
So to put our international academy in a nutshell, we offer an experience for players overseas to come in and sample what it's like to train like a professional, day in, day out, live, breathe, eat, sleep it, at our club accommodation, at our £10 million state-of-the-art training facility, being coached alongside our first team, 23s, 18s, and then ourselves, being coached by pro licensed coaches such as Nathan Rooney, who have been in the pro game at first team management level themselves. And it's given these players the exposure and experience of what it's like to be in that regime every single day, taking themselves out of a comfort zone. They might be a big fish in the pond where they come from, but coming into an environment where it's going to challenge them every single day, with fantastic facilities and support network around them with our staff, to try and take them to the next level. Whether that's with us, that's the end goal. That's what we're all wanting. We want the next Jamie Vardy. He's our biggest success story. But if it's not with us, then we'll try and help them in a pathway with one of our partner clubs around the world, or into an avenue where it might not be a playing opportunity. We might want to go down the coaching avenue or the sports science avenue, but it's finding a pathway in life. The percentage of players that will make it to the very top level of the professional game, as you all know, is extremely slim. We want to play a part in developing these people, not footballers, people, into a pathway that keeps them within something they love. We've all clearly got a passion for it, making a big sacrifice and jump over the pond to come and train every single day and experience what it's like. So we want to play a hand in where they end up in life, and that's so important to us. So your likes of Aiden, your likes of Issue have come over, and they'll tell you firsthand of what it's really like.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know part of the other component, like you said, to not just make footballers, but better people, better individuals, and better human beings. I know one of the other things that you got, which is unique, is the connection with Ross Hall, which is a private high school that works well with all international sort of curriculums and stuff like that as well. So that's another option that players explore.
Correct. Yeah. So we're so blessed and very lucky having Ross Hall on our doorstep. So Ross Hall is in the top 5 independent schools within the UK. So players who are wanting that pathway into football with the balance of parents still getting a high level education, it marries beautifully. Players can study GCSEs, international baccalaureate, A-levels, BTEC, along with supplemented language if they needed that as well. So it's we have a variety of choice of education and still get first class training from ourselves every single day. And we've had plenty of success stories come out of that program alone itself this year.
Oh, perfect. So that kind of ties into my first question by utilizing a school like Ross Hall and this international program. Generally, regions of the globe are like kind of identified with a certain characteristic or a style of play. You could say like the Dutch total football, the Spanish tiki-taka style and stuff like that. So with a large influx of like foreign talent, players and coaches kind of coming in to the Premier League, has that led to drastic changes from what the game was in the 80s and 90s? I guess, has that trickled in because Fleetwood Town kind of competes in the first division, so you're looking at third tier. You get the Premier League, the Championship, and then first division. Has that kind of made an impact at that level as well in the game and below, even second division, conference, third division, stuff like that?
Well, yeah, certainly has. I've noticed a drastic change. Take back 15 years, probably about 18 years maybe. I was playing in the conference level of the English tiers for Southport Football Club, and that sort of level all the way up to League One was always stereotyped as being kick and rush. Get it up to your big number 9 as early as you can. Forget the midfield, and we'll go from there. Fast forward 18 years, with the influx of obviously foreign players, with the influx and development of academies, the EPPP coming in, everything being standardised and really looked at in depth, then it's stripped down all the way from the Premier League. I'd say all the way down to your Conference North level. You only have to look at League One alone. You've got Sunderland. You've got Ipswich, you've got Portsmouth. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, these were all teams that were in the Premier League and solid Premier League football teams. So the foreign influx is influencing League One as well. Look at Fleetwood Town. We've got Hare, Australian international at centre half. We've got Glenn Whelan, who's only just retired from international football with the Republic of Ireland. Ched Evans, Paddy Madden. We've got a number of international footballers within our club setup as well. There's that argument, does it hinder the opportunity for English homegrown players coming through? There's that argument certainly at the Premier League level. But when you look further down the field at League One, League Two, potentially even Championship level, we're still getting a lot of homegrown players through into the first team setup, along with our international foreign players, which is a nice eclectic mix to have. I watch every home game. Some of the football that's being played. Your likes of Portsmouth, ourselves, Fleetwood Town, your likes of Oxford. They played wonderful football. Wonderful football.
With I guess. That you get that the continental players and stuff like that, Asians making an influx, but I guess for us locally, I guess you could say Canadian and American, there's a lot of success stories of players from both countries now kind of making an impact at European clubs. Our biggest one, you got most recently Alphonso Davies, obviously at Bayern Munich. Obviously has had a very illustrious career playing Champions League football at Fenerbahce and also in Turkey, and then obviously Denmark and stuff like that prior to the Dagoons brothers in Spain and Holland. But now is the perception of English clubs kind of changing on what they think of like the Canadian and American players, and obviously having a second fold to that is the FATIFA side of it, expanding out and looking for partnerships in North America for those types of players and how they see team and player development kind of occurring in those countries and regions.
We've always stereotyped the American market, the Canadian market, as being athletes first and foremost. So that's been well known for 10, 15 years. You breed athletes. What's been lacking, we felt, over the last 10, 15 years is the athlete who's technically gifted, but that alone's not good enough. It's having that decision-making skill set as well. So with the influx of better coaching in North America, club sides, private academies, getting better curriculums, educating a better player, we're finding that marriage between good decision makers, technical, and you've still got the athletic side that you're well known for. So you marry all those together. That's something that's very intriguing. Obviously, not just for ourselves as Fleetwood Town, but your bigger boys in the Premier League. Your Chelsea, United, your Cities are taking bigger interests in what's coming out of Canada, North America, and in the whole. So we'd be foolish not to be tapping into looking for the next talent coming out of those areas, especially when you've got, like I said, it's the most participated grassroots sport. There's so many hungry players that want that next step. It's a no-brainer for us. So I think you're getting away from that athlete who just runs in straight lines, who only thinks passing sideways and backwards. You're breaking down that curve now. We're seeing a lot better decision makers both on and off the ball, which is huge for us.
Yeah, that's great insight into it. We hear over and over again, just from a sporting standpoint, just the mental side of things, just the game understanding is just really the next step, and for us, we've seen a generation of players now that have grown under certain elements that have really helped. I like to call it the YouTube generation, where you're now getting players that are as young as 9 and 10 years old, which have a great deal of ball mastery, and also, within that also comes structure. They see what training sessions look like on a bigger scale. They come to respect, the training ground and, just what it's meant to be. But it's just sort of that final polish now, just to understand the game and the mechanisms when it comes to, being a good two-way player. And I think is just the final overall hurdle, that I think that the North American, player needs to find. But it's good, the progression has been great. And one of the interesting things that also stands out is we're starting to get a lot of players now from Europe that are starting to come into, the college systems. And obviously, on this side of the pond, the college system is huge. And, there's an influx in just sort of that everyday, grind mentality that comes in Europe that sometimes also lacks, within North American atmospheres. One of our coaches, Coach Julien, who's here with us today, is definitely a versed, athlete and coach when it comes to the University Avenue here. Was looking forward to joining us today, and I know Coach Jules has some questions for James as well. So I'll leave it off with Coach Jules there.
Thanks, Manny. Hi, James.
Hey, Julian.
My first question has to do is more on the coaching side of things. I coached youth soccer over in San Antonio before moving back to Canada and joining up with AI with Manny and Amrik. And one of the things I was a bit a big advocate for was the channels of communication between coaches, parents, and players. So I think when that gets muddled, whether you're a coach with the best intentions, I think everybody has their own view of how well they're doing as a player. Parents have a view of how well their child's doing as a player. And if those, if things aren't set in stone, I guess from day one, as far as what the pathway is or the ultimate goal for the athlete, then people just don't know what's going on. So my first question is for you, how do you go about defining your playing philosophy and DNA for a new incoming player in your academy?
That's really clear and really simple from the outset for us. The induction pack gets sent out to the athlete and player prior to them coming, which outlines our playing philosophy, style and DNA, which obviously the player and parent both get to see. So before they even touch the feet down on UK soil, they've got an expectation of what we're looking for, what we're after, both on and off the football pitch. Because off the football pitch is just as important on it, how they're treating their lifestyle, what's expected to them in terms of discipline, getting up and getting themselves up in the morning, getting ready for transport into the training ground, how they're preparing for the day ahead. And then duration of when they're on the ground is our job to keep pathways clear with parents and players. So we run 4-week cycles. So every 4-week cycle, the player and the parent get given an overview of where they are over the 4-corner model, technically, tactically, athletically, psychologically and socially. And that goes to both parties. From there, an action plan is then developed and ILPs are then developed, individual learning programs. So they have key goals, clear goals and objectives that we feel that they need to hit to try and get them up to the next level. And again, that's clearly shared. We have a system called VO as well, which records every training session and every game, which the parents and players get a platform to go on and watch. So there's no hiding place. A player can't be going back to the parent and saying, well, I was the best player on the football pitch today, because it's there in black and white to see on the video footage if they had a stinker. And vice versa, it gives us some accountability then, because we have to be crystal clear. We've also invested in a piece of technology called Playmaker, which goes onto the boots. So we make it even more objective, that we know that the players pass completion off right foot, left foot. We know the distance they're covering. We know the high intent sprints that they're doing, and it breaks it down into position specific. So there's still going to be some slight grey areas. There always will be, because the game can't always be objective. There's some subjective points to it, because everybody's got a different opinion. That's what makes the game so brilliant and beautiful. However, when it comes to dealing with parents and players, we try and make it as clear with those avenues as we can.
Perfect. That's actually a perfect segue into my next question. We actually just got Playmaker as well, so we're looking into learning more about that and seeing how it can benefit our players. But outside of objective measures, I think coaches also subjectively, there's some stuff that you have to be able to key in on as well. In your development pathway, I noticed you had 3 things that you mentioned you measure with the players as far as ability, athleticism, and attitude. I think the first 2 you can objectively measure, but the last one, which I think is a huge component for all players, is attitude. So how do you make sure you bring in the right players with the attitude that you'd like in your program? And if their attitude is not up to par, what are some of the things that you do to kind of get them on the right path?
Well, our mantra, our sort of strapline at the football club is if we want to develop a better player, we must educate and develop the person first. So we don't know what attitude these players are going to come in with. We see little snippets of them, where we work with them on clinics and camps, where they've been recommended to us from agents, and we've seen video footage of them. So getting to know them personally first and foremost is so important for our staff. Getting to know about the family background, spending one-on-one time with the boys is so important. And then we can gauge where we lay and where we put our man management. Because my personal feel, and you ask any of the greats, you ask any good coach, man management's key. Not every individual's the same. So we need to know what makes these boys tick. Who has an edge? How do we manage that edge but still keep that control? And then we look for little things as well. You know, who's first on the training pitch? Who's out before practice? Who stays out of practice with the bag of balls? Who's asking for the bag of balls? Who's first on the bus in the morning? Who's never late? Who's never, you know, the things that you can track? Who's never missed a session? You know, we obviously registrations are the old school famous one, isn't it? You know, why is he missing every Tuesday? What's going on a Tuesday? Is it because he's watching his favourite show on a Monday night and he's staying up late? So, you know, the human approach before we even take a football is vitally important for us. Because ultimately, if these boys haven't got a good attitude and they haven't got the dedication and sacrifice, then they can be the best footballer that we see. But they're not going to progress into our first team because the gaffer is all about the human. It's all about the human. You have to be a good person to fit in with the first team. It's still a very grey area. It's subjective, but we try and treat each individual as an individual. And then you look for, as a coach, like all good coaches do, those little traits. Like I said, who's staying behind after training? Who's first on? Who's first on the bus? You know, those little things. Who's asking the questions? Who really cares? Who's making the comments on the video after training? Mm-hmm. Who's clipping stuff? These are the boys that will excel. And listen, we want to help everybody, of course we do, but ultimately, the player has to help himself first and foremost. And I'm a big believer. I always think you can go into a dressing room. I always think you can go into a dressing room and without speaking to anybody, you can pick the 2 or 3 who've got the good attitude. The boots are out neat and tidy.
Yeah.
Just up on the pegs already.
That's big. Thank you. Camera went off there. There I am. Yeah. No, that was great. Just one more, just kind of a question came into my head when you were explaining that last bit. How when you do find those players, I think it's big. You know, I personally tried when I coach. I don't like to micromanage. I think if you can get players within who spread that message without you even having to be there, it's huge. So how do you get those, you know, key behaviors that you want to see? Like, how do you make them contagious throughout the group?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Julian. Having a group that's player-driven, not coach-driven, is something special. And ultimately, I think it comes down to setting your standards and not wavering from your standards. Yes, you're going to have days where we fall out. Yes, we're going to have tears. Yes, we're going to have tantrums. But if you don't waver from your standards, ultimately, there's one way to go. Hit the standards, and the better players with the better attitudes rise to their standards. And the players that are getting left behind, they soon switch on. Well, I've got to hit them standards, otherwise I'm going to get left behind with the group. And then what breeds is that player-driven. I'm here to make you better. If you're better, you're making me better because I want your jersey. And all of a sudden you've got this beautiful mix where everybody's competing. And that's what you want ultimately, isn't it? You want competitive sessions. You know, you don't want going through the mill sessions where players are just turning up for turning up's sake. You want a bit of bite in your sessions. You want players, you know, giving out the odd bollocking, but not taking it personal because they want the best for the group. And then once you've got that, you're onto a winner. And with any bad egg within the group, simple. You give them the warning, they fall in line, or they go. A bad egg can poison the group very quickly, and I mean, we've seen it on our programme. I've seen it over the years through my career, and I've learned the hard way. You know, and I guess a lot of coaches have. The bad egg might be the most talented player that you've got. Sometimes they are, and you work with them, of course, and you want to work with everybody. But I guess there comes to a point where, if none of your approaches work, the arm around the shoulder, the telling off, the letting him crack on, then you have to let them go, because ultimately nobody's bigger than the group that you've got. If you want success and you want to develop your players
within the group, you know, development context, you know, it's been such wonderful growth from the coaching realm of things. You know, ultimately, I find that when it comes to players and taking onus for their own development, self perspective is something that I think I struggle in finding within a lot of players. You know, players that are doing a lot of the right things, you know, show up, work hard, you know, say the right things, have the right mindset, but just kind of not knowing where they personally stand towards their dreams and their goals. And self perspective is almost one of the main components in becoming self-sufficient, you know, towards making that jump and towards making you know, those goals that a player seeks. And, you know, with that said, again, getting to those levels, as much as we can input from an environment standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, it really is a personal thing. You know, once somebody, you know, knows, you know, where their weaknesses are, you know, what they need to work on, you know, how to go about you know, improving those deficiencies and turning them into assets. You know, you have a player that is now, you know, more functionable as opposed to just making it, but also, you know, a player that is, you know, going to be gaining that second and third contract, right? And you know, once you have that sort of self-sufficient and you know, self-perspective at a very high level, it really makes the coaching, you know, a lot easier, you know, and it's really a good, you know, two-way approach towards that. And, you know, just leading into some of that, James, what are some of the success stories that stand out, you know, at your time in Fleetwood? And you don't necessarily need to be, you know, played up at a first team situation. You know, as you said earlier, you know, these tools that you give players can, you know, lead them to be great professionals in all walks of life. So are there any moments or any, you know, players or any situations that stand out in your time there?
Yeah, we've been really blessed in such a small space of time. You know, the programme's only a year old in essence. In terms of footballing successes, we signed Colin Marmer, a youth player from the United States of America, on a 2-year scholarship, which was an awesome success story. We've had a number of players go and playing with our under-18s, our under-23s, which is a huge success within itself. And then 2 players make the jump from there to sign professionally in Portugal with one of our partner clubs, which has been an awesome achievement for those boys. And then at the younger levels with some of our players at Ross Hall, you know, we've got two young boys, one from Pennsylvania and one from the Emirates, United Arab Emirates from Dubai, who have both been in the 16s and 15s, you know, and on that journey they played against the likes of your Manchester Cities, your Liverpools, your Evertons. You know, that's dream come true stuff for kids who 6 months ago were playing grassroots football with the club sides back home. So, you know, we take great pride in being part of that. And I have to stress, being part of that, we don't take credit for that. That's, you know, we provide a tool in that particular time frame of their journey. But ultimately, the boys have got the ability and drive and attitude to do that themselves. And then we've had players come on who have not been up to the level to play professionally, because that'll happen. It'll happen more than we get success. So, you know, we've got a young boy from Australia who's now doing his coaching qualifications over there, and he's got the book from first for coaching, who's constantly on the phone asking for sessions and input. And again, that's just as good as for us as them signing a professional contract. They're still within the game. It's unbelievable. We have one young boy from Australia, Doug, who's got into clothes designing. He set up his own clothes designing business. You know, talented footballer, good footballer, but not good enough, unfortunately. And now he's gone down that avenue. But we've given him the confidence to look at life a different way, and that's something he already had a passion for as a side hobby. And we've given him the tools to go and, you know, use your enthusiasm that you've had for football and throw it all into doing something like that. So, you know, if these boys find a career, we've helped them a couple of percent pursue it, we take great pride in that. And obviously, like I said, the ultimate goal is to get them to play for Fleetwood Town, and I'm really confident that will happen in the near future. We'll get one player all the way through to the first team level, but there's lots of successes we judge along the way, which is really, you know, what a job to have, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you summed it up right there. For some boys to be, you know, within a span of 6 months, now playing against, you know, top clubs in the world, it just shows, you know, the dreams that surround, you know, football on an everyday basis, and just how much the sport can give you, you know. And it's great to see, you know, from the outside of football side of things, where, you know, players are given sort of that emotional, social, mental backbone to pursue other avenues of life. And one of my players who were recently in Germany was noting to me that, you know, they start, you know, their coaches very young. They have coaches that are teenagers that are coaching teenage, you know, high level A squads within their academy setup. So to see kids maintain themselves in the game, I think is definitely, as a coach, always a good cherry on top for us. But, you know, on the other side of things, you know, this is a game where you have to, you know, be resilient to survive and to make it. And what are some of the things that, you know, you would say from a player that's now gone into this, you know, situation where he's left from one soccer spectrum to another, from North America per se, to now FTFC? What are some of the things that you find are constants that are, you know, could be some struggles in adaptation, whether it's the playing style, whether it's the off the field stuff? What are some of the things that are, you know, you pinpoint as to say, hey, that's an area that, you know, can really cause a fallback, or that you notice within players coming over?
Yeah, well, we get a lot of talented players, you know. We get a lot of talented players who are technically very, very comfortable and athletically up there with what we've got. Ultimately, have to be better than what we've got. You can't be as good as. You have to be better than what we have. And what we find that a lot of the players that come over are missing is that decision making at speed. The English game is the quickest game out there, hands down. You know, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga. Yes, they're quick, but the English game is ferocious. It's physical. Its transitions are quicker. So the decision making within those phases has to be super sharp. And it's no disrespect to the boys, and it's no criticism of the boys. They've just not been in that environment at times, which has allowed them to do it. Like I said, technically and athletically, they're not far away than what we've got. However, our boys have been in a system from under 9s all the way through to under 18s, under 23s, day in, day out. So they've nurtured and learnt that skill set. So coming into that environment, it's a wake-up call for them. You know, it's like, wow. So that's the biggest trait that we see with all players, not necessarily North America. From, you know, we have players from all over the world, and that's the hardest thing for them to learn, is to make the right decision at the right moment with high pressure. There's very, very few games that they play within that low pressure games. Teams will pressure to death. They'll compete for everything, every second ball. You know, your touch limit, your time limit on the balls is a lot less than what you'd be getting back home. So it's making those effective decisions, those intelligent decisions through the run of play. And I guess, lastly, to answer that question, a lot of players play a lot of North American players play within the safety zone. They're very statistic driven. So I've got a young Canadian player with us at the moment, who physically and technically, aesthetically, attitude, wow, what a player. But everything's sideways and backwards. It's all safe, all really, really safe. But safe doesn't win you games. Safe doesn't mean you're effective within games. So it's breaking that mold of actually putting your arm around the boy's shoulder and saying, listen, play forwards, be more effective and be brave. And listen, if you lose the ball, okay, it's all right. We go again, learn, and we go again. So it's just that repetition of trying to break the mold. That's just one example.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, you know, something that is second to none when you talk about, you know, the commitment on the ball and the commitment to sharpness on the two-way fashion in England. I would definitely agree with you that it's second to none. And England over the last, you know, few years has started to see a lot of youth players, you know, from the country expand to other places, you know, whether it's you know, from in North America, from the collegiate level, we're starting to see players, you know, now enter MLS as well from an earlier age. I believe that I forget the gentleman's name, but there was a highly touted 18-year-old player that just signed over for Montreal Impact out of the Tottenham setup. And you know, as you know, the world of soccer expands a little more and more for English players every day. How does that reflect on your partnerships? Like, do you guys are you guys known to push players outside of England as well? How does, you know, what constitutes you know, a player maybe not, you know, being good enough for the first team setup, but you know, being able to manage, you know, as you said, a contract in Portugal or something like that?
Yeah, like I said before, it's a brutal game, but the reality of it is that you have to be better than what we already have at any level. So regardless if you're an under 14, under 15, or you're an under 23 or first team player, with the club, our club, any other club, they're not going to sign you if you're just as good. You have to be better, first and foremost. And we've had a number of players who have been on the cusp of it, but ultimately have not been quite there for us just yet. So this is where our partner schemes come in around the world. So we've got a couple of good clubs in the likes of Portugal, Hungary, Iceland, on the continent, which, you know, is still a terrific pathway for players to go and sample professional football at a high standard. And then we're open up to looking at the American market with the likes of the CSL and the Canadian Premier League and the USL, MLS, and players who might want to further their education if they don't quite make it and go into the college system and have a fantastic recommendation from a professional football club. You know, when you're stacking up CVs and you put the ones to the top who have had that experience in that environment, so it stands them in really good stead if they want to do that. And then we have our partner clubs within the UK as well. You know, the northwest of England is saturated with professional football clubs and very high standard semi-professional football clubs. So if we feel that a player is not quite ready for that League One, Category 3 football at the moment, then we go down the road to one of the clubs and say, listen, we highly recommend this player. Take a look. So there's lots of avenues for the players if it's not for Fleetwood Town. But again, I have to stress, we don't give any guarantees, and we can't. When the moment of contact, we say to the players, there's no guarantees. We haven't got a crystal ball. I can't sit here and tell you now that you're going to be a professional footballer, whether that be at Fleetwood Town Football Club or elsewhere. It's highly competitive, very subjective. You need a little bit of lady luck and a lot of hard work, dedication, and sacrifice. And if you throw all that into the mix and you do get lucky, then it's fantastic. It's wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very insightful conversation. I'll leave you with this question here today. First team, uh, before the shutdown, I know you say you watch all the games, currently in the top five, about 6 or 7 points off. Do you think promotion is a possibility in the near future? I mean, to hit the championship would be absolutely massive for the club, I would imagine.
Yeah, obviously with the COVID-19 virus, first and foremost, safety and welfare is paramount to all. You know, prior to the shutdown, however, we are 2 points off the automatic promotion places. If we win our game and one of the top two slip up, we're in the top two. But you look all the way down to eighth or ninth. Any one of those clubs could be in the automatics or the playoff position, so it's superbly balanced and ultra competitive. From our playing squad, the biggest thing that we had before it shut down was momentum. We were unbeaten in 15 games, and we were looking super solid. We've got a great spine to the team, fantastic goalkeeper in Kearns. You've got your big Harry Shooter in there. You've got your wealth of experience with Coots and Whelan, who played Premier League, Championship level, international level. And then you've got goal scorers in Paddy Madden and Ched Evans, who, alone will get you 40 goals a season. So we were feeling really confident at the bare minimum that we would be in amongst the playoffs. And hopefully, if everything gets back on track and we get back to it, then we can keep that momentum going. With all of the automatic, of course, we would. I believe, I'm sure if you ask the gaffer, he believes that we've got the playing squad to produce the goods for that. But certainly, the playoffs would be a bare minimum for us as where we are at the moment. We put ourselves into a wonderful position for that. And for the town of Fleetwood and the chairman who's invested so much, not only of his money, but his heart and soul and passion for the football club, building it, 7 promotions in 12 years, is it? It's a fairy tale story. It's having players playing in front of 200, 300 fans, earning £50 a week, to the Championship, which is the 4th most viewed league in European football, is a fairy tale. So, we're a small family club, but the smallest club, 92 league football clubs. We're the smallest one in history to be within the leagues. So we've got everything crossed. We hope that we can keep the rich vein of form when we get back to playing. Yeah, we're confident.
Yeah, it would be a fantastic story, and for us, it's great to get insight and just to have a different perspective of clubs coming from different parts of the world. We had an opportunity to speak to a colleague from Germany, and it's amazing just doing a little bit of background and looking into the whole Fleetwood setup. You guys have a great thing going on, and we look forward to having you here back in Toronto, James. Whenever you do, I'll definitely pop by to the camp. But you're also welcome into Athlete Institute anytime. We have a good amount of players that we think would be a good fit. And for us being a high school program, a program that works on players between grade 9 and grade 12, and stay very clear within those parameters. We're always looking, for avenues for our players to continue at the next level.
Yeah, no, we'll be super excited to get back over and work with you guys. Same with the coaches. We love coming over and we love working with you guys. So, cheers.
Thanks, guys. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Coach James, I hope your family is well and safe during this time, and we look forward to catching up some more here on this side of the pond.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one, James.
You too, guys. Take care.
We'll talk soon.
See you.
See you.
Bye.
All right.